these two that they work with.
Lovely.
Yeah,
They're gonna
Yeah.
sue
He's great.
Silicon Valley as well. But you guys.
Yeah,
always
he is
have
fun.
to, You know,
Yeah,
uh,
yeah.
but
So excited.
I just don't want to go. You guys would be so much better out just working together. Create your own little association or something. And just figure it out as a group.
Yep.
And,
Yeah.
I mean, it's into getting.
Good.
Great. you know,
But if it does, at least you got good access.
I said you can record it on deeds, but he's gotta participate. and
He's so funny because we just say, you need to.
Right.
And he was like, but I did it.
Oh,
You need to do more.
Yeah.
You need to. It's like.
Usually it ain't good.
Yeah.
Looking at your
Come
your
in.
bank building, Kettle River. Still love that, still love the building, love the area. Yeah. And you, congratulations.
One of the young gals, and I'm horrible at names, but she's the one that
I'll
went to
chat.
state.
Never remember talking.
From down here, right? Yep. Long blonde hair, usually in a ponytail.
Yeah. Please do, I guess I was a little. You must have did some redistricting a while to go. or-
Anyways, I got to talk to her at church. I said, yes, that picture. Oh, really? Good job. Oh, funny. I said, that was pretty cool. She goes, so, I mean, it was good.
Front door.
Yeah.
Because you have videos.
Good for this one piece of people that I already found.
Big meal. What's gonna lose?
Okay,
Careful with that.
that's 10 o'clock on my little watch. We will, we, just a reminder that, this is live stream on video. If you have something to say, we ask that you come up to the microphone so everybody can hear you and see you. So with that, we'll call the meeting to order and rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Anybody here wish to speak at public forum? Takers? All right. We'll move on to the agenda. Do we have any additions or corrections?
Mr. Chair, just a minor correction on the consent agenda on number 3A, the easement with the city of Rock Creek, and paragraph number 4 in the second line, it should say from rather than form. It's just a small typo, but just note, we'll correct that on the final easement.
All right.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
Second.
Motion by Lundgren, seconded by Ludwig. Any discussion? Not, all in favor, say aye. Approval of the minutes of the May 16th, 2023 County Board Minutes and Summary for Publication.
I'll move them.
I'll second it.
Motion by Moore, second by Lundgren. Any discussion? Not, all in favor, say aye. Opposed? And then minutes and reports, Chemical Health Coalition minutes of May 2023, Pine County Zoning Board minutes of April 27th, 2023. And the County Land Surveyor monthly report for May 2023.
So moved. Second.
Josh.
Motion by Ludwig, seconded by Moore. Any discussion? If not, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Move on to the consent agenda. You've had that in front of you for several days. We'll look for approval of that.
I'll make a motion to support the consent agenda.
I'll second.
Motion by Lovegren, seconded by Moore. Any discussion? If not, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, move on to our regular agenda. And we have Pine County District Court update. Judge Martin, I believe you're on the docket.
Thanks. Should I stand here? I'm on the docket. Believe me, this isn't the only docket for the day. Good morning. I think I've met all of you, but just for the record, my name is Krista Martin and I'm one of the district court judges chambered here in Pine County. I have been on the bench coming up on my 22nd year, so I know.
I remember day one.
I remember day one too.
I remember a big trial.
That's right. We've all been around together way too long, haven't we? I don't know if I have anything interesting or new to tell you, but we do have a new judge actually in Pine County. As you may know, Judge Flanagan left. He was here about 5 years and then he took an opening, went to an opening that was available in Washington County with the retirement of Judge Moss there. So Governor Walz appointed Judge Jason Steffen to join us here in Pine County. As you know, it's myself and Judge Heather Wynn are the other two judges here. Judge Steffen was going to be with us this morning, but his schedule ended up getting kind of messed up, so he's not here. But and that happens in our world, right? Things happen. But he comes to us from by way of Pine County Public Defender's Office. He was a public defender here for a while. And then when he joined the bench last month, he actually came from Chisago County Prosecutor's Office. He actually has a PhD in philosophy from the University of Minnesota, and he has his law degree from Harvard University. So he's a very talented writer and legal scholar. So we're really excited to have him with us. Really nice guy too. He had his public swearing in last week and on June 1st, and then he was privately sworn in on May 2nd. And up in our offices with our staff. And he's actually done a couple of weeks of ride-alongs and now he has taken over a full calendar. So he's really hit the ground running, as it were. So I just want to give you, the state of the courts, like I'm the president or something. The state of the courts. You may all know this already, but of course, Pine County is one of 8 counties in the 10th Judicial District. The district is divided into assignment areas. Our assignment areas, Pine, Isanti, Chisago, and Kanabec. So we refer to ourselves as the PIC. And as Judge Wynn always says, without Pine, it's just ick. So you need Pine. There are 45 judges in the 10th Judicial District and 9 judges chambered in the PIC. Statewide, there are 321 judges, of which 296 are district court or trial court judges. The judicial branch has 2,500 full-time employee positions. And I just wanted to share with you the mission statement because it has some relevance as we go through sort of the update for this year. The mission statement of the judicial branch, and sometimes I refer to it as the branch, and I do know there are 3 branches of government, but the judicial branch is the one I call the branch. So the judicial branch's mission statement is to provide justice through a system that assures equal access for the fair and timely resolution of cases and controversies. Our vision is to have a system that is accessible, fair, consistent, responsive, free of discrimination, independent, and well-managed. So here in Pine County, and I'm sure that Attorney Fredrickson has probably told you this over and over, we have a really high criminal caseload. Our caseload is, when you look at the weights, criminal cases are definitely weighted the highest. And that is not true throughout the PIC or the state or the district for sure. So we have really been working hard. When the pandemic hit, as you guys probably recall, we quit doing jury trials. We really scaled down the cases that we were handling as we tried to figure out, how we were going to do our work. As a result, we did end up with a backlog of major criminal, which are gross misdemeanor felony cases. And the Judicial Council set a requirement for every county what they needed to do to meet their backlog reduction goal. And we've been working diligently to make that happen. And I am really, really proud to tell you that we met our backlog reduction goal the Monday before last, right? Amy Willard is here with me too from the court administrator. So I'm going to tell you, I was expecting it to happen. I woke up at like 5:30 in the morning. I made myself wait like Christmas morning until like 7 until I logged in. And I was to see what if we'd met our goal, and we had. It was very, very exciting. So what that means is that we can report now to the Judicial Council that Pine County has cleared its backlog of cases from the pandemic. That means that we really are kind of off their radar, which is nice. We are the third county in the 10th district to meet our backlog goal. So it's pretty impressive, especially considering how heavy our criminal calendars are. I really want to tell you that the county attorney's office, Attorney Frederickson and his staff, most specifically, I'm going to say Michelle Skubitz in that office. I know you employ her. They were really just such great partners in helping us get our backlog goal met. We had a case resolution event Thursday before last here in the building. We actually brought defendants to the building and their lawyers. It was a morning calendar. We had 27 cases on the calendar. Judge Wynn and I were on the bench, and Judge Wynn was doing another calendar, but we did send some overflow down to her. The idea was to try to clear some of our, kind of lower level offenses. We had the Department of Corrections was here in the building, the county probation office. We had them set up upstairs. We had the chemical assessors were here in the building. We had Health and Human Services helping us out, directing people. Thank you, by the way, for that, Becky. And we also had Lakes and Pines here. And as it turns out, we did have some folks that were homeless. And so we were able to send them to Lakes and Pines. It's hard to be compliant with probation when you don't have a home. So we were able to get them down there and connected with some services. So they were all here in the building, set up upstairs. And it was a very successful event. And again, I really want to thank the county attorney's office as well as our public defenders who worked really hard on that. So I meant to say this in the beginning. If you have any questions, I'm happy to just, interrupt me as we go along. So, because I'm going to just keep barreling along. For a court administration update, I want to tell you that we have 10 employees in court administration. One is in the office full time. All the others have a hybrid schedule, which includes in-office time and remote time. We celebrated a big anniversary last Thursday. Cheryl Sklusacek has been in court administration in Pine County for 40 years. 40 years. So yeah. So there was a party and flowers and much celebrating. She is a very hardworking member of that office. In fact, I think she's the one that's there every day, right?
Correct.
Yeah, she's the one that's there every day. And she has so much institutional knowledge. When she started, Judge Sausen was on the bench, and the court system was still, I don't know if you remember this, Commissioner Ludwig, these days, when it was the district court and the county court. So the county court, we had two different types of judges. That's when she started.
I don't.
1984 is when the court consolidated. So our case filing update, all of our case types are pretty much the same as they were last year at this time: civil, family, probate, with the exception of criminal. 239 more criminal cases were filed this year over last year at this time. So that just goes to tell you that there's a lot of criminal work to be done. I think it's 239. I did the math without a calculator, so I'm just saying, but I'm pretty sure that's right. We have a pretty unique calendar plan. It does take in all of our counties in our assignment area. Judge Wynn is doing a CHIPS assignment, so she does all of the child protection cases for Pine and Chisago counties. And then Judge Stefan, now just Stefan and I we take family, all the family and civil cases, and we also take family and civil for Isanti. So we do Pine and Isanti. And we have an Isanti rotation, which I'm on. I think I told you about that last year. I do 1 week every month doing major criminal in Isanti County. And I take conflict cases for them as well. So we just finished a big homicide over there. So it's a lot of work in that county. We also have major criminal case assignments, so each judge takes a certain number of the what we call serious felonies are assigned directly to that judge. Our activities, Judge Wynn is a busy judge. She is the chair of the PIC. She is the lead CJI judge for Pine County. She's the co-chair of the District Equal Justice Committee, along with Juanita Freeman out of Washington County. Those two judges work really hard. They do a great job with that committee, do a lot of outreach, particularly with the Mille Lacs Band of Ojibwe here in Pine County. She's the 10th district representative for the Minnesota District Judges Foundation, which is the education foundation for the branch, the judicial branch. She is the mentor for the new 10th district judges. In fact, she is Judge Steffen's mentor, and she teaches child protection at the state new judge orientation. Judge Martin has decided to not do as many committee assignments as she has gotten older and has been there, done that. As you know, I used to be for 6 years, I was on the Minnesota Judicial Council and many committees as a part of that. When I left the council, I decided that it was time for me to kind of scale back some of my committee work. So I am the chair of the PIC E&E Steering Committee. That's the early neutral evaluation. That's our family court process. I'm also the chair of the 10th District Pro Bono Committee. Every year we give out an award to an attorney or group that does free legal services in the community in the 10th District. We've had several local attorneys who have won that award, and that's been really nice. I'm a member of the Pine County Law Library Board with Commissioner Moore, and I'm also a mentor judge at the State New Judge Orientation Program. So I spend all week when they do a week-long program twice a year. I'm there. Don't go twice a year. I go once a year, usually in October, and I spend the whole week with all of the new judges that have been appointed in the state and mentor them, sit through all their sessions, answer their questions. I really enjoy that work very much. So I do want to talk about remote work. I'm not sure if you have questions about that, what we're doing remotely. As you know, part of our pandemic response plan was to start, like you do, start doing court with Zoom, and that has really hung on. So it has offered some benefits. There's some negatives. I'll talk to you about that if you have questions. I don't know how interested you are in our remote plan, but
I
yeah.
have one.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Go ahead first.
So where the remote really interests me is like a mental ill hearing where we have to transport so far and bring them back and forth, you know?
Yeah, that's a good point.
So
Yeah.
how is that working there? Does it work?
Oh, it's wonderful.
Okay.
And actually, I think, of all the case types, it is the most beneficial in that case type. So I don't know if everyone heard anybody's talking about mental health commitments. So when we do a civil commitment, the way it used to work, as you know, and I'm sure Rod back there knows, and we would take the individual who is suffering so significantly from the effects of their mental illness that they are hospitalized. So think about that, right? I mean, this is a hospitalized individual, and we would put them in a squad car with a deputy who was not in uniform. And we would drive them from wherever they were hospitalized, which wasn't Pine County ever. Sometimes it was Fargo. I mean, one time we put someone, we had to put them in like a taxi to get to the border so we could pick them up out of North Dakota. We would bring them to the courthouse, and we always have two hearings. One is a probable cause hearing that takes like usually 5 minutes. The court reviews the documents, and that poor person, I mean, they're sick, they're ill. And then we would have the actual trial, and they could sometimes be disruptive because they were, often actively under the influence of their mental health crisis. Sometimes they didn't want to stay in the courtroom. The sheriff's office had great transport officers who could usually, be very helpful, but it was really difficult. Now we do those by Zoom, even though they're testimonial. They are one of the only testimonial hearings where we take testimony that we still do by Zoom. And the doctors then cost less because we don't bring them to the courthouse either, and they're all over the state. They often will do their interviews remotely with the patients, and the patients are with their staff. So they're in their hospital room, they're with their hospital staff. And it just seems like it is frankly more humane to do it that way. We are not doing very many testimonial hearings, I would say, remotely. We try really hard not to. The only other ones that I can think of would be speeding tickets. And, you know, the sheriff's office appreciates that because when you're doing a speeding trial, you have to drag someone off of their off of their route or their shift, I should say, or you have to pay them overtime. So we do those remotely, and the officers can appear from their squad cars or from the office, but they don't have to come up and sit around and wait all day, you know, to have a hearing. So that works out pretty well for them. And, you know, a lot of times somebody asks for a speeding trial and then they change their mind, and then we've got an officer there, and then they're like, no, I just, you know, I need more time to pay the fine or something, you know. I mean, and that's fine, but I'm just saying it's an expense. So otherwise, of course, jury trials we do in person. We do our contested omnibus hearings in person. We do our family trials and everything we do testimonially. When we take testimony, we do in person. I would say, and I don't know, maybe Attorney Frederickson can correct me if I'm wrong. I think the only thing we don't otherwise do, other than the commitments, are sometimes we'll end up getting tangled up in a Morrissey hearing, right? Once in a while, or which is like a contested revocation hearing that we didn't anticipate would be contested, and then something goes wrong, and then there we are. And we often have very strict timelines, so we will sometimes do those. But usually the witness is the probation officer, so it's not so difficult. The other thing, once in a while, a restitution hearing, in particular, if the county attorney's office has victims that, you know, don't live locally and they want to testify remotely, we'll let them do that. So there are a lot of pros and cons. I would say more pros than cons, especially in Pine County, because we are such a remote community. And I will be honest with you, our case resolution event, we had 27 cases on. I think by the time the smoke cleared away and people had signed petitions, we had 27 remote hearings scheduled here in the building. And I think we had about a little over half of people show up. And that was pretty common, I think, for most of our calendars when we did them in person. And we'd issue a lot of warrants, you know, and that's a disruption to your jail, to your law enforcement. And so I don't think we approach that anywhere close to that when we do hearings remotely. We get people to come to court, particularly people who live, you know, in the northern, in your parts of the county, right? Who are, they live in Sturgeon Lake and they have to find childcare and they are working, and it's a really long way to Pine County, and they're going to have a 5-minute Rule 8 hearing or a 2-minute Rule 8 hearing. So it's been really, really great for those folks. But in family court, I actually got a call when I was on the committee that started the remote planning process. I got a call from a family attorney in Washington, very well-respected attorney down there, saying, Judge, never go back to in-person hearings for family court, because we say our clients save so much money doing it this way, and they're more comfortable in these hearings when they're not there with the other party. Sometimes that can be very stressful. So that's what I have for you today. Do you have it? Yeah, go ahead. Oh, I'm sorry, Commissioner Hanlon, you had a question. Go ahead.
No,
Hmm.
actually you answered just about everything I had written down.
Oh, shoot, I'm sorry.
I do have a
You
question.
did a great job. Public defenders.
Yeah.
I've heard they're hard to come by. Are we doing okay in Park County?
Oh, you know what? I am not just telling you this to tell you this, but we have some of the best young professionals working in the courts right now that I have ever seen. We are daily blessed. That is the truth. And I don't know why that is. I think part of it is your county attorney's office. I think they are respected. They are honest. They don't ever play games. I've heard, they will actually say, come to the office, we'll open the file for you. What do you want to see? You know, we're going to show you everything. Because that's what their Brady obligations are. But they make offers, they send discovery, they're nice people, and they work well. They they understand really well the grid, which can be very confusing as far as, you know, the criminal history scores and points, and it gets more and more confusing, it seems like, as the days go on. And so I think that the public defenders like working here. Remote work has saved us because a lot of these public defenders that we have would not be here if it weren't for remote work. They would not keep coming here. None of them, I think, live in the county. And they all live down in the Twin Cities, but they really like working here. We have great staff. We have really, I mean, I don't know if you guys know this, but we have fabulous judges. They're so great.
I have one more. How-
Yeah, put that on the radio.
I mean, I think we have a really, I go to, I mean, I'm not trying to say anything bad about anybody else, but I have actually heard cases, criminal cases in every single county in the district with the exception of Sherburne. So I feel like I have and I've been all over the pick repeatedly. So I think I am fair in saying we are lucky. That is not the case everywhere. There are a lot of openings. You know, they don't get paid great. And there's, like everywhere, we have to compete for employees, just like you at the county do, right? I mean, we have to compete for public defenders, and I'm sure that Attorney Frederickson will tell you that he's hanging on to his staff by his fingernails, right? He's got a great staff down there, but you know, these lawyers, they come out of law school with giant debts, and it's really hard sometimes to make ends meet. So we are really lucky. We've got great PDs.
How are we doing for general security for the courtroom? You know,
You know, I think we're doing okay. You know, the thing is, the building just is not as occupied as it used to be. And so it doesn't, so we aren't using as many bailiffs as we used to. The bailiffing staff, I'm sure Bill, has decreased. And we have the metal detector upstairs that just goes to the judicial corridor. So when we have calendars that require that, they will have bailiffs here and do the metal detector. I will say, you know, I don't focus on it as much because, you know, I am in the building most days, but I do work from home, and I also, you know, come in the back stairs, and I'm not in my courtroom. I'm in my chambers. I do a lot of my work from my chambers now. So I think we could probably all be better with our personal security. I have thought about that. I actually had someone comment to me about that the other day, how I'm not very, maybe I shouldn't.
You just moved it closer.
Yeah, we're probably not. I live in this town. You know that. I live in this town. I run around town, and I love being here, and I shop here, and I walk here, and I live in town. And so, you know, sometimes maybe I don't think about it, you know, so much, but yeah, we probably could do something about that. And our internet presence, I think sometimes, you know, we don't think about, I don't know about you all, sometimes we don't know what's out there, or our personal addresses and that kind of stuff. We probably need to do a little bit. Otherwise, I feel like the building is in pretty good shape. It's still very usable. We've just had a lot of work done on the sound systems up there. Remember when we built the building? Who was here? You were here, or right after we built the building. When we built this building, well, you were working in the building, right, Commissioner Lovegren? And probably you too, Commissioner Ludwig. We were so proud of our, you know, our exhibit system. And I remember we would show people, we brought the Supreme Court up, and now it's like outdated, like wildly outdated. So it's all been updated now. So we hold hybrid hearings upstairs, so we can do both. We'll have some people on Zoom, some people in the building. That works fine. Sometimes we'll have witnesses who can't be here in person, particularly like in probate cases where maybe their parent lived here and passed away, and they're the personal representative, but they live in Arizona or Alaska. They can appear by Zoom, even if maybe we're doing something in person. Yeah, so we really have been pretty adaptable, I think.
I have a
Yep,
question.
Go ahead.
And I feel like I'm throwing you under the bus, and so that's not my intent. I'm sorry. I know that's probably not the way to start, right? But I was reading an article, and I read a few of them recently, where we've been losing law enforcement because people, our officers will arrest somebody and they'll bring them to courts, and then the courts let them off. And some of them have been pretty horrendous things that they've done where, maybe somebody died through a traffic accident where there was a DWI and it was their multi-fifth DWI. But the courts are letting these people out. But the one I read yesterday was a 40-year-old that just retired because he said, I can't do it anymore. I can't keep wanting to do my job and then having things let go. Have things changed within the system that is allowing that to happen and if you want me to come talk to you privately, I'd be willing to do that too.
No,
Okay.
I do not feel thrown under the bus at
Okay,
all.
thank you.
I think that is a complaint that I've been hearing for my entire career, and I would suspect everybody's heard. I mean, you used to work in law enforcement. I think a couple of things I'm just going to say. Sometimes, we hear this. We hear that, sometimes what happens is the really bad thing happens, and that becomes in people's mind the standard or the norm, when in fact it is not. So everything is normed to the most horrible story somebody can tell. Do I think that somebody somewhere maybe was released when they had potentially been charged with a heinous crime? I think that is potentially true, but I don't think that's the norm. I'm really, I say this with all due respect, the Eighth Amendment has not changed since the 1700s, nor has the Fourth Amendment. The 14th Amendment, of course, was added later, and it sort of incorporated those rights into states' obligations because the Constitution says Congress, right, shall make no law. But I think it's really important that we keep in mind that the Eighth Amendment requires us to set bail, because people are innocent until proven guilty. And I think that is what really troubles me. And when I go to schools, I talk to kids about that. That is where judges are constantly getting, people are like, oh, the judge just let them out. Well, they were constitutionally required to do that, right? I mean, and here's something people don't know. Generally, because we hear a lot about federal crimes, the federal Constitution, the Eighth Amendment, has been interpreted by the federal courts to allow cases in which no bail is set. So sometimes in federal court, defendants are held without bail in certain instances. However, the Minnesota Constitution does not permit that for state crimes. So in Minnesota, the only non-bailable offense is a capital crime. That is a crime for which you could be put to death. And of course, we don't have capital crimes in Minnesota anymore, which then by interpretation means we have no non-bailable offenses. So everyone is entitled to bail. We also, have an obligation to set reasonable bail and conditions. And so I think a lot of what you hear is people saying they got let out when really they're out on bail because they have a constitutional right to bail because they're innocent people until they're proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. The other times I hear people complaining is so I will say that there is and maybe Attorney Frederickson could talk to you more about the details of this, but there are times in which there is a road fatality in which the highest criminal charge is a careless driving. And that I think prosecutors have a hard time sometimes explaining but that is the reality of the state of our law. And so people will hear, oh, they went out and they killed someone on the road and now they just get a slap on the wrist. Well, that's what the statute says, right? There's only certain circumstances in which someone can be charged with a more serious charge if a fatality occurs as a result of a car accident. The other thing is, of course, the other thing I hear is a lot is when we release or when we dismiss cases because there's been evidence that has to be suppressed. And that does happen, not often. That isn't the stand. That isn't right. I mean, that's that's the one you hear about, right? Oh, they suppressed the drugs and now they're back out on the street. Well, if there's a constitutional violation, and those drugs are taken in violation of the Fourth Amendment, the court has no option but to suppress that evidence. And so sometimes it, sometimes people will say it's a technicality. Have you ever heard that? And my response is always, when is the Constitution of the United States of America ever been considered a technicality?
Yeah.
So remember that this is constitutional stuff, right? Constitutional law. And then finally, I think a lot of times, and I'm not saying I'm just, because I'm just going on the fly here with what you asked me, I might.
No, I appreciate this.
But I
Thank
think
you.
the other thing I sometimes hear is that, I hear this a lot from victims, and I absolutely, especially in terrible crimes, that's not long enough. That's not long enough, Judge. That's not long enough sentence. And I'm sure the county attorney's office hears that from the victims that they talk to frequently. But of course, we have determinative sentencing in the state of Minnesota. And so I'm not saying that's bad, and I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm saying it is what it is. And so we have a very specific grid. We have a grid for sex crimes, a grid for DWIs, a grid for other criminal conduct. And within that, and when I say a grid, it's literally a grid, and it's based on what your criminal history score is and the severity number that's assigned by the Sentencing Guidelines Commission to that crime. And it literally is, this is where the box that you're in. The judges have leeway within the box. We can go to the top or the bottom. There's a grid, there's a range, but we can't send someone to prison if they are a presumptive probation. And we can't send them to prison, even though the statutory maximum might be 20 years, unless they fall within that grid. Now, there are exceptions, and they're very rare, and they're called departures, upward durational departures, which then implicate, some very complicated other trial work. But that's how we sentence people, is within the grid. We do departures downward. We will say, hey, you know what, I'm not going to send you to prison today because you're in treatment and things are going well. And so let's see how that goes. So that certainly happens. I think sometimes, I don't know how to say this. I don't know who the person was that said I was 40 years or I'm 40 years old and I can't take it anymore. It's a hard job being in law enforcement. And I frankly think sometimes people maybe need to move on if that's not the right job for them. Right. And that's just how it is. We've had judges leave the bench like, I don't want to do this. I'm going to go back to practicing law, or we had one that went back to the county attorney's office recently, or I'm going to teach at the University of Minnesota or whatever, like this isn't my job anymore. That doesn't mean that being a judge is a bad job or, worse than usual. It just means that sometimes you're just not what you want to do. Right. And I think that's true with law enforcement. And then there are those who hang in there because they're good at it. So.
Thank you for the second,
Yeah.
the second side of that story. I really, really appreciate
Sorry, was
it.
that longer than you meant?
No, but
I
I
apologize.
do appreciate it because you read about these, often. And so it's always been in the back of my head. And when you brought up that we have a high criminal or amount of criminal cases, it's bring back. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you so much for coming.
Sure, you're welcome.
Thank you. And I do want to thank you and your whole office staff for the thinking outside the box once in a while.
Yeah.
And trying things like the evening reporting center thing that they.
That's your probation.
Yeah, I know it is, but we're all joined at the hip in this,
Yeah.
we're all in this thing together. And so I appreciate if those kinds of things wouldn't happen if the bench didn't allow it to have, or weren't part of it. So,
I agree. And Judge Wynn started doing truancy courts in the schools. She drives to the school and
Right.
and the kids are there with their teachers and principals and their parents. And that was I think that was part of, remind me, Mr. Frederickson, that was part of your juvenile justice reassign. There was a whole lot of pieces to that. And that was one of them. But it was like nobody had ever done that before.
right,
And now she gets calls from people going, what's that about? How do you do that? And she is back to being in the school now. That we don't do those remotely anymore. So.
Like you just said, you brought up Reese, and we can do so much together, but we can't do things alone, and so just looking at the way that everybody works together is amazing.
Yeah, no, it's a good place.
Yeah.
It's a good place to work. That's why I'm still here after
think so.
22 years. A good place to live too. All right, thank you.
Thank
guys.
you,
Thanks.
thank you so
Yep.
much. Yeah.
I do need to go. I apologize.
Yep,
I'm
nope.
not trying to be rude, but I have.
all right, next up is a retirement recognition for our dear Ryan Roxanne. And David's gonna get to the podium first.
Good morning. My name is Dave Minke. I'm the Pine County Administrator. I have never done this before. One, had an employee I supervised retire, so I don't know what that says about my supervision skill. And I don't think I've ever stood at the podium to address the county board. So I'll give it my best shot. Tuesday, June 6th is the date that many people remember. It was on this day 79 years ago that Allied forces landed in Normandy, France to begin the liberation of Europe. Today, Tuesday, June 6th may not be recorded in history the same way, but for me and many of us who know Roxanne, today marks an event to celebrate the career of a person who helped people. Roxanne started in public health in 1988 and then left after about a decade to run an in-home daycare. She then returned to the county, and I don't know if maybe your kids grew old enough to go to school or if the kids just ran you down. But she returned to the county in 2003 and worked in the sheriff's office until lost my place. 2012. When she transferred to Extension and has been there ever since. Now, I started in 2012. I had no idea that you were brand new to Extension. I thought you had been there forever. But I did not know anything about Extension, but I did know that Roxanne was the backup to every administrative task in my office. So she did not only do the Extension work, she answered the main county telephone line, she proofread my documents, she handled county board agendas when needed. She kind of was just my first call for help. Now, I noted earlier that Roxanne likes to help people. And this is the first call for help. So this is based on a true story, but it's based on my recollection. So any reflection to actual events, you know, I'm trying to protect the innocent, so no. But I remember years ago receiving a phone call from somebody who was inquiring if they could weigh cattle in the courthouse parking lot.
Oh, no.
Those of you who know me, know that I don't know anything about cattle. But it didn't take me much imagination to think that that was a bad idea. So I made no commitments to the person on the phone, but I hung up and I called Roxanne, and Roxanne said, Dave, don't worry, I got this. And she figured it out. And that really has been the story of, I think, my relationship and everybody's relationship at work with Roxanne is she never flinches at stepping in and say, I've got it. I'll figure it out. I can help. And so Roxanne, thank you for everything you have done, and I'm going to miss you.
I'll just add, she did the same thing with the sheriff's office her whole career. That place is like exposed down there, and she's always was rock solid.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the committee of the board, distinguished members of the board. Good to see all of you this morning. And like David, I've never done this before either. I'm happy to be here. And Roxanne, let me just say congratulations on your retirement. Well done, well earned, and well deserved. Let me just say that when David first told me that Roxanne was going to be retiring, I was bummed. To be really honest, I was just disappointed for a couple of reasons. One, because I think we know that in this job market, it's really difficult finding good people. But more importantly, we're losing an amazing and incredible member of our team. And I say that because even though I've only known Roxanne for a very short time, it's been a real pleasure and a real joy to work with you. Dedicated, committed, enthusiastic, knowledgeable, supportive, really been supportive of me. And I know the support that you've given to the team has just been amazing, I can tell. And for me, of course, I have a number of extension offices in my portfolio. And typically with most of them, I'm involved on a daily basis with some issue, some problem, fixing this, fixing that. I knew after a few conversations with Roxanne that she had everything under control. That office is so well run, absolutely. And I say that with all sincerity. And because of you, you've made my job a lot easier because I haven't had to spend a lot of time here fixing things or dealing with issues and problems, et cetera. So thank you for that. Your contributions, Roxanne, and I say again with all sincerity, have made this extension office, I think, exemplary in all respects. So you will be missed. You will be missed because I was looking forward to working with you and learning from you. And unfortunately, hopefully, moving forward, let's say you won't be replaced. We will find someone else, but your shoes will be hard to fill moving forward. So with that, I also want to, because the dean wants to acknowledge and congratulate you for your commitment and your dedication to extension and the work that you've done. So I'd like to read this certificate of appreciation, if I may. Roxanne has worked for Pine County for over 30 years, the last 12 years with extension. She is a champion for all extension programs, a community connector, and a joyful member of the team. Her teams include her colleagues at Pine County Extension, 4-H, and the Master Gardener programs in Pine County, the crops teams, the mentorship roles she has served in and with other county extension staff, and the larger Northeast Extension region with the Up North Peers group as well. Roxanne listens and acts to implement support for her colleagues and her program participants. She is competent, capable, and has a let's do attitude. She absolutely does. Thank you for your many achievements and best wishes in your retirement. And so Roxanne, it looks like you're going to walk away with a few clocks. If that's okay. As we say now with extension, the time that you've dedicated and committed to extension, we're giving your time back to you. So thank you, Roxanne. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Suzanne?
Get a picture?
Yes, if I may say a few words, go ahead and take a photo while I speak, if that's okay. I wanted to just recognize Roxanne because Roxanne and I have kind of grown up together in extension. She started in 2012 and kind of at the same time as David Minke, and I started in my role at that same time. So that was a magical year. Roxanne is key to so many things, and she's an important team member in the extension office and at Pine County. Her knowledge of Pine County operations really has excelled and strengthened the extension office. So that's something that's really, really important. And I saw that come to life last week, or was it 2 weeks ago? Last week, I think, when we had Roxanne's open house retirement party. A ton of people came. She is key to so many people's participation in extension programs. And you're right, when David said she has this can-do attitude, that's an important piece that we need to celebrate because it's like a duck floating on the water. She looks unruffled, but I know she's swimming to beat the band to get things going. So Roxanne has just been a pleasure to work with. I guess I just say that, Roxanne's work is key to 4-H and Master Gardener programming, and now the Ag Educator programming. She works some too with Kristen as the SNAP Ed educator. So all those people rely on her so much. They're out doing work with people, and Roxanne is that steady island at the office. Phone calls come in, and who knows what is going to be on the other end of the line. Lots of questions about livestock or other things. So that's an important piece. She's calm and steady, and that's so appreciated in her role. Let's see. The beauty of her position is that Roxanne embraces both Pine County. She just exudes Pine County pride, but then also extension, U of M extension. And that's the beautiful part, the marriage of extension and the county to create that land grant university. So Roxanne has been such a great representative of Pine County and the university during her time. And I think she'll continue to be, because she's fallen in love with extension programs. So that's wonderful. I asked some of her colleagues, well, before I do that, I just want to say years ago, when Lorelei and Roxanne had this idea to spread joy and recognition about 4-H throughout the county, lots of people put up little stakes and posters at the end of their driveways. It was Roxanne that made that all over the county happen. She is game for whatever needs to happen, and she takes it and runs with it. She's created a huge basis of support for the Master Gardener program with a Google Drive system that all the Master Gardeners use. So that is really an important piece that she just says, no problem, we can do this. I asked some of her colleagues words that they would just use to describe her, and they said happy. She's a bright light. She's a teammate and a helpful companion. She's considerate, capable, friendly, detailed, and exceptional. All of those words are Roxanne. So I just thank you for letting me beam in over the miles. Most of you know me as the former regional director. You have Craig now as your capable regional director, but I've worked with Roxanne for quite a while, and I'm thankful to be able to say a few comments. Thank you, Roxanne.
Steve,
now,
before we
Yep.
do that, Ryan, can you pull up the chat? Because Debbie put something in the chat, and I think you couldn't read the whole thing. I know it's hard for her to not be here today with you. Nice.
thanks, Debbie. Okay, Roxanne, the solid gold clock. Yeah. This sucker is priceless. So let's make sure you keep it, you know. Yeah, but did you believe all that stuff, Les, that was said about her? Absolutely. Okay. Because I had her first. Okay. Okay. Good for you, you lucky dog. But we got her for a long time, and I've been here for, 17 years, and all those things that colleagues said about Roxanne are absolutely true. No matter what task we gave her, she painted a smile on her face, and some days it had to be tough. We went through some rocky times here, and I don't know how many times you were the only face for Pine County 4-H sitting in that office answering the phone. I know you were, because it took us a while to latch on to another replacement for Lorelei. So we appreciate that. Anytime somebody in the office had to be gone, we didn't have to worry, because Roxanne would cover. And she not only was just there, she was there and did the job. Some of us just kind of show up some days. Roxanne showed up and knew what to do and figured it out and made sure. So Roxanne, on behalf of the county board, I want to present you with this plaque.
So Roxanne, you have said that you had the best job of the county, which I agree. But I think that a big part of why that was the best job in the county is because you made it the best job in the county. You had the attitude that did create that. And I'm glad I retired first because now I'm not going to wonder where I'm going to go for Laffy Taffy. So, but yeah, I hope that the next person has the same humbling spirit that you.
I've always said it, I have the best job. in the
Yeah.
county, And I hope the next person loves it as much as I do.
Come back and visit anytime. Yeah, go ahead, Les.
I was here last Wednesday on her last day, in case it was a tough day. You know, she liked what she did.
Yeah.
I sat out in the parking lot, I threw flowers in her car. I waited till 5 to 5. Because he hadn't finished throwing paper in the shredder yet. Really?
That's who she is. Exactly.
You're going to miss her.
Well, thanks. All right, we'll move on. We've got Jack Dosseth here, one of our representatives that represent the north end of the county, but he's gonna give us a few words of wisdom from the past legislative session.
Well, thank you.
Welcome.
I don't know if it's much wisdom, but it's an honor to be here. I'd have to say, number one, congratulations, Roxanne. You've got a great reputation out there working with Representative Nelson. He speaks awful highly of you as well as Senator Rarick. So we appreciate all you've done and all you're going to continue to do. So thank you. But I don't have no formal canned speech to share with you today. I think you know that I'm your grafted in state representative from the north there. We've actually 11A, which consists of all of Carleton County, northern or southern St. Louis, and northern Pine. With redistricting, we actually gain more territory going into more of Pine County. And with that, I want to make sure that you guys know that you have an open voice, open door at the Capitol. You've always had great representation with your current representatives, which is Senator Rarick as well as Representative Nelson. But let you know that I'm your representative as well, and I work in lockstep with both of them. I think you'll find that I've got a real open door policy. Senator Rarick and I work together on, he and I are communicating daily. How's that on different issues? So that's important to relationships to have. I just want to let you know that Senator Menke, or not Senator Menke, not yet. Administrator Menke, that was probably the best catch you guys could have ever done as a county. From past to professional experience with me working with him, you couldn't have better representation of people that work here in your county. And I think that's one thing that contributes to Pine County. You guys are kind of setting yourself on its own right now. I mean, you guys do a great job. And I think that's commendable to the leadership that you have and your attorney Frederickson. I mean, I think you've got a great legal representation as well. So that's so important. And I don't say that lightly because I just wouldn't say nothing at all. How's that? But I just want to say, I think some good things that came out of the session. We actually had some additional broadband monies that went into broadband expansion throughout our district, which actually continue throughout Pine County as well. Some additional funding for Pine Tech, which is a good thing as well. Some concerns I've got is, I think I heard earlier about, how some of these bills going to affect our law enforcement. I think with the legalization of recreational marijuana, there's some concerns I've got on what kind of guardrails are put in place that's going to help make your job effective. I think that's we're working along in lockstep with you guys on that. Whatever we can do to help assist, I'm an open door, and let you know that I think I'm more for just a soft introduction today. Let you guys know that I'm not just your representatives to the north. I'm here to represent you guys. I've actually been working with some of our counties, or not counties, our districts to the north as far as Sturgeon Lake and some of those. We've actually got some projects in place for future bonding projects that we're proposing. I know Senator Rarick's been working with you guys on some stuff to the south here. And again, wherever we can work together on some of this stuff, I'm a phone call away. So let you know that if in doubt, give me a shout. But I'm here just for more some question and answers. If you guys may have any questions that you might have about this session, and if I don't have the answer, at least I know where to point you. How's that?
Well, thank you very much. And we do have a bonding request that will come forth. I don't know if we're ready to divulge. I mean, we know what it is. It's for some jail modifications and much needed, but we'll be laying that out in front of you here shortly, because we want to be first in line, not last in line, and figure we can figure out the best approach between all of us.
I'd be happy to work with you on that. I know Senator Rarick would as well. We actually had a similar request up in Carlton County.
Right.
And we actually, contrary to what some of my critics are saying, we actually, I think we came out fairly well considering the tone of the current administration as far as willingness to actually get some monies into the jail. I was actually the original sponsor of a bill, felt that we could take a different pathway. So I actually signed off my primary authorship and went on a secondary to help get a pathway to help get some funding in for that project. So I think even with not having a majority, I think there's ways that we can work and go about trying to obtain some funding. I know that the current tone of jails has been not as receptive as I'd like. So I'd hope that we can change that, work on that. So I think working with you guys on that, I'm more than honored to actually work with you on that. I actually, my staff has also designed a Google Doc. So if there's information that you have on that, reach out to my staff and we'll actually get that put in place and actually get that process sooner rather than later. I've learned that I'd rather do a more of a proactive approach and get on the list. If we don't get on the list, it's not going to happen. And I think right now we're actually discussing exploring visits for bonding projects throughout the upcoming summer as well. So I think start having some of the discussions. So reach out to my office and myself, and we'd be happy to work with you on that.
And we certainly want to thank you for the bonding request that Pine Tech is going to benefit from. I think that's, you know, when I was testifying at a Senate hearing and Stu Laurie said, you know, my brother teaches welding in a semi trailer. That's just not right. We got people crying for welders and they're out of space. You know, I mean, they needed it badly.
It was a necessary project, in my opinion. I think it was something that was necessary, and I'm glad to see that we were successful in getting that achieved. So
Yep. Thank you.
You're welcome. And I think
Awesome.
I'll give a lot of congratulations to Senator Rarick on that as well. He worked fearlessly for you on that. So I think we'll give a lot of credit to him and Representative Nelson too. So
Yep.
you've got, I have to say that you've got some great representation and we work well together. Any other questions that you may have?
Just want to thank you. I have reached out to you and
Yes.
yeah, and you respond. And I just really appreciate that. It's valuable. Thank you.
You're welcome. And like I say, if you don't get a response, send another response because we get downloaded with so many emails, but you're right.
Right.
I try to make the attempt of getting back to our constituents. I think that's something that you've elected me to be your representative and you deserve to get a response back, even if there's, I may have some constituents that may have issues that may want to run cattle in the parking lot here. He may not think it's a great idea, but you know what, they deserve a response and we need to work with all people. And I think there's always some validity in whatever they're asking. So I think that's important. I think I can learn and grow. I don't have all the answers. And I think we can learn and grow from everybody and working together. Any other questions that you folks may have today?
Anything? We sure appreciate you coming.
It's an honor to be here. And like I say, do not hesitate to reach out to me at all. Love to be of assistance. I know I'm working with some of the folks in Sturgeon Lake right now on some things and even I can brag on some of the stuff we achieved to the north end of our district, but you don't need to hear about that. Let's focus on what we got done here and where we're going for more things in the future. But
All right.
you have a wonderful community here, and be proud of what you've done and the leadership that you have. I think you have bar none, some of the best leadership in the state right here. I don't say that lightly. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks.
Yep.
Health Insurance Committee.
Well, we talked a lot at the last meeting because we had the pre-meeting and we talked about what was coming up at the pre-meeting. I think the thing that we need to bring forth today is the health fair.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we are asking for $5,000. That was in the United, we used to have a wellness fund. So we want to take $5,000 out of that wellness fund and have a health fair coming up. Is it October 5th or something like that? I think was the date, October 5th. Yeah,
We have 17,000.
we have 17,000 in the bank. Yeah. So, but that's the one thing that we do need county action on today. So I'll make a motion that we do take 5,000 out of the wellness
Chair's
fund.
not here.
Well, she's your vice chair, so you can.
So I keep going.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll make a motion. Well, do you need to make a motion then?
You can.
I can, okay, that we take $5,000 out of the wellness fund and have a county health fair.
And I'll second.
Okay, so we have Lovegren made the motion and Ludwig seconded. Can we, all those in favor? We're making a motion to spend $5,000 of the wellness fund to go into health fair. So all those in favor?
All right.
Opposed? Motion carried. We'll go back to Steve. No. I don't, does anybody have any questions after reading this? I have the book that they provided and Matt has his too. So if anybody wants to look at the books after the meeting, feel free to take a look and see where we're at.
Yeah, one quick, is this somewhat the same as like the blue zone and wellness and everything
No.
like that? It's a total different
The wellness fair?
This is from the
Something different.
insurance. There was,
insurance.
when we signed up with UHC, they put a chunk of money into just a wellness program to help lower insurance rates. So then when we decoupled from UMC, there was some dollars left in there, but it's only can be spent on wellness. It's kind of sitting there. So we're just gonna use 5,000 of it to put a wellness fair on. And public health is gonna, I think, run the show on that.
Yep, they talked about the ideas that they have, and they sent out a survey for all the employees to answer. They got some really good ideas and good responses, so it sounds like it's gonna be a good health fair. We used to do them and we haven't had one for years.
Our numbers are looking good for the first run, and with Blue Cross Blue Shield, we're sitting, I think we're at 89%. Something like that. So, well, you saw it. You saw it.
The first quarter.
89.9. Yeah,
Seems like we always look good in the first quarter.
Yeah, we always do.
well, January, we always get hit because it's.
Yeah, from
the other ones,
carry
but
over
yeah.
from the year before.
Right,
And we should be at the end of a run out almost.
We should be. Okay, we'll move on to Technology Committee. I'm gonna have Josh, except I'm gonna take the first one because I think the tax and CAMA thing started about the time I started being a county commissioner 17 years ago, when we started talking about changing and looking at a different tax and CAMA system. And I don't know if Kelly wants to give us the whole board an update on that, but it's been a long, arduous task. First of all, to find a vendor, and then after umpteen years of looking for a vendor and starting to go down the road with one vendor who we knew wasn't gonna work out, and kind of going back and going it on our own. And then we pulled the plug and basically started with a new system. And I think our staff has done a marvelous job of making that new system work. It wasn't, it wasn't like just unplug one and the next one's gonna work like a wonderful thing. I think there was some glitches there that we expected, some we didn't quite expect, but I think, Kelly, do you have anything to add to that?
So Kelly Schroeder, County Auditor Treasurer, and I don't have a lot to add to that, Steve. You did a good synopsis of the last, I don't know, 17 years of the saga of the tax and CAMA system. So March 20th, we went live on the new system. Obviously with any new computer system, there's glitches, there's things that don't work, things that you thought would work. Even today, we still have glitches that happen just because of how things are set up and whatnot. And any new system's difficult to use, but we got the tax statements out, we got the taxes posted. And we're kind of on our way here. Next week, we're gonna start calculating mobile home property taxes on the new system. And so that'll be a whole beginning process on the new system. And we'll go from there.
I do just have to say one thing, as long as the representative is here, that I remember several years ago talking to Senator Rarick, then Representative Rarick, about this tax system we have, and we had 56 classes of property. I remember that number. And so when we go to get a new vendor, they aren't nationwide vendors. There's somebody that has to write a program specifically for Minnesota. Well, we've gone from 56 classes of property to, I believe, 63
I haven't counted in like a year. We were at 63.
classes of property.
So I don't know. Right,
So-
they're still working through what happened this year.
So Senator Rarick and I kind of laugh about that. We've made great progress in reverse.
Yeah.
You know, because everybody has an idea about how they can carve out something specifically for their group that they happen to own property that fits into this. And so that's another classification that has to get figured into the formula when you go to calculate taxes. And we all know that if you pull one string, 62 other strings get pulled. So it's a real balance. But thanks, Kelly. Bring it back to your staff. That we really appreciate the work they did. It's not easy going from one technology to another technology. We all know that. But
Something you used for 34 years.
yes, some of those people have literally here for 34 years.
Or more, but we've had that same system since 1989.
Okay.
Did they finish flying?
They did finish our aerials, just actually last week. And so now it will take about 30 days to be able for us to review them. If you go on Beacon and with a subscription, or like a login that you guys have, if you hit on the pictometry tab, you can navigate to the new aerials and just take
you
a look
can?
at them.
Oh.
Yeah, but only with logins you can do that. Yeah, I'm a little bit interested to see they always try to get them leaf off, but and no snow, leaf off, ice out. So we had leaf off, ice out, and then half the county flooded. And I said, I don't know that I really want you to fly right now. And they said, yeah, we don't really want to fly right now. And then the water went away and things started to bud out. And I said, you gotta fly, go.
And then it rained for a week.
Right, and then it rained, and then there was the wildfire smoke, and they couldn't fly then. And so honestly, I'm a little nervous once we get to see them, how much leaf coverage there's going to be. So I've had conversations with them about that, because yes, we can't do anything about Mother Nature, but we need leaf off for our purpose.
Okay, thanks, Kelly. That was only part of our technology committee meeting. We had a long meeting, but Josh, you want to fill in the rest?
Yeah.
of it?
And I ended up joining remotely because I wasn't feeling real good and didn't want to sit in that room with everybody. So thanks for allowing me to do that. It's funny, technology, we can use technology to keep going with a meeting, but I was very surprised that you sent out tax statements. I haven't got no calls or nothing. Just kidding. So, so we're all happy that you did that. So, otherwise, we did talk a lot about the internet outage. And Ryan went kind of into a lot of detail about what had happened. And it was almost a blessing in disguise that it wasn't a real major issue. It was, but it wasn't. But it did really open the door for what could have been a major issue. So he's working on that right now to try to figure it out. But it's one of them things that I think you don't realize how important internet is, how crucial it is to running everything. But the other thing that really is hard is when everybody points the fingers at somebody else. And Ryan had a lot of that. I mean, he was almost ready to go out and start pulling fiber. I know you can't do that. But to find where the problem was, because you would call one person, you'd call the state and they'd say it's this guy, and they would say it's this guy, and they'd say this. So finally, and I know I've done it many a times, it's you spend half a year, half of the outage, or probably 3/4 of the outage was trying to find the person that could actually help you, and a lot of lessons learned. So hopefully next time, or not next time, but that won't be such an issue. So I do appreciate that you got that going, and we're gonna work through to try to figure out a better way and some redundancy there.
I think they probably already have it in place.
Yeah, probably. Then we did talk about the fiber connection overview that Pine City has. And some stuff we can do there. The courthouse networking project, talking about doing some of the switches, upgrades in the courthouse, just because they're getting aging out, but they're very complex and very expensive. So we'll be talking about that probably later this year in our budget meetings for next year. Cybersecurity, we did talk about that a little bit, and just kind of went over some of the stuff that happens when you have an incident, and just trying to minimize a lot of that. Disaster recovery, we just kind of talked about what we have now for disaster recovery. And I think it's a pretty good plan right now. And we do really well with it. So, but we're just kind of talking about it, and so we know, so we can all sleep at night if something did happen. So, something a lot of people don't think about, but it's real. So, payroll project. We did talk about switching some of our current payroll over, but just much like the tax and CAMA system, it's a big undertaking. And we've had it. How long have we had the system we have? Not quite as long as the tax and CAMA, but
Yeah, no, we've had the Kronos system for 3-ish years, 5-ish years. And we have not yet rolled out the payroll module. We use
the
the time and
payroll-
attendance piece, but we have the payroll module.
But
And
the
so-
payroll module we're using, or the system we're using, we've had for a long time.
Yes.
and then kind of the last thing we did talk about is the .gov domain change. And we've been talking about that for over a year.
Yeah.
So now we're there, we're getting ready to start implementing it, and that'll be kind of cool. And I think Ryan said that like every municipality in the country is going to this now, right? Is how it's kind of going. So it'll just be, ours ain't gonna change a lot. I know, because didn't you tell us that there's only one Pine County in the United States? Yeah, so some of them might have to be like Pine County, Minnesota, or whatever, but there is only one. So it's pretty straightforward and pretty easy should be a little easier than what you currently have. I'm just now, after 9 years, getting used to county.pine.mn.us and that specific straight. So now I'll have to do something with it, but I think it'll be easier.
Nice if they all go to it though, because then you email somebody else, you do the same one. That'll be good.
And I don't know if anybody else had anything to add. Like I said, I was remote, so sometimes you get a little distracted. in certain
No, you did,
things.
you did, you did well.
So Ryan, I have a question on the cybersecurity review. A lot of times we'll sit in on meetings and they'll say that there were this many people that have tried to attack that got caught through the security systems. Do we have any kind of numbers of that for Pine County?
So Ryan Finelli, team manager, we don't have specific numbers, but we are attacked constantly every day in our firewall logs. It's up to 10,000 that we drop from Russia, China, North Korea, Iran, Turkey, you name it. So, yep. So in the state is a very big entity that gets attacked, and we're just kind of an arm off of that. So all counties have a surface area that is kind of out there. So everyone tries to get in the front door, and we just try to keep them out. So
Thank you.
perfect. Thanks.
All right, we'll move on. Property forfeiture cancellation.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Kelly Schroeder, County Auditor Treasurer again. So in May, every year, we do all of our property forfeitures for non-payment of property taxes. So this year it was if they had not paid their 2019 property taxes, we were forfeiting them this May. I think we started with about a list of about 52 properties. We got it down to like 19 properties that we actually forfeited with working with the property owners and coming up with payment plans and things. However, unfortunately, after we completed that process, recorded what's called the auditor certificate forfeiting the process, I was working with the staff to switch the property into forfeited status. And when we tried to do this one, it wouldn't go. And we're on our new system, of course. So I'm like, there's something wrong with this dang system. What's going on? And so in digging through, we actually found that the people had made a payment. However, when it came with all the other property tax payments, when it came in, the staff didn't realize it was for delinquent taxes and should be applied to that, and they applied it to their current year taxes. So the property should not have forfeited because they had paid exactly the right amount for their delinquent amounts. It should have been applied and not forfeited. So the process the statute lays out to cancel the forfeiture is for you to do a resolution. And then I have to make an application to the state and then record an amended affidavit or auditor certificate.
So we need a motion.
I'll move that, Mr. Chair, resolution 2023-31.
I'll second that.
I have a question.
Yep, go ahead.
Not about this though. So we can go.
And Mr. Chair, just, it's 2023-30. Right?
So, oh, I read the wrong one. I'm
Yeah.
sorry. I read the one. Okay, 30. Correct that. Look at that. Thank you. Still my motion.
Did you have a question?
I have a question after you take the vote.
Oh, okay. Any more discussion? Not, all in favor, say aye.
All right.
Opposed? Okay, Matt.
So have you heard anything in your office about the Supreme Court decision, how it's gonna affect the forfeiture process?
Why, yes, it's been the topic of the conversation. So just background for everyone. So Minnesota property or statutes say that when we forfeit a property, then we can resell it. And whatever we resell it for, we're able to take our administrative costs off the top, and then it's split out 40% county, 40% school district, and 20% township or city. Any remaining proceeds. However, that statute and the constitutionality of it was appealed all the way to the United States Supreme Court. And that decision came down last week or the week before, that we cannot do that. You can only keep your administrative costs and then the amount to cover the delinquent taxes.
So the
Anything,
Townships, they're done.
the townships and schools and
districts.
us are done. You only get what the taxes were.
That's what I was wondering. So you can't still carve out for the local. Okay.
Right, you can't carve out for anyone. And so that was the decision out of the Supreme Court. And so now there's been a lot of talk of now what?
How far back will they go?
How far back will they go? I think just yesterday, St. Louis County got served with a class action lawsuit for the proceeds. I mean, the amount in that class action lawsuit was an insane millions of dollars number. it will be interesting to see because the one decision from the Supreme Court, and maybe Reese, this should be something for you, it didn't address a lot of questions that still remain. And so I'm trying not to get terribly worried or excited about it. I think Greg Beck, our land commissioner, has lost a lot of sleep over it. We still have to go through the forfeiture process. We still have to sell the properties, but the whole process after that's going to have to change, and what it's going to be will have to work its way out through legislative changes, through all sorts of changes.
So we talked about this a little bit at the district meeting last week. And Jeff, one of the things that I had mentioned is when you guys are to the table to talk about this, that was my job, was forfeiting properties. And we always went above and beyond. So we would make phone calls. I mean, we pulled our phone records to just show what we did. Sending multiple letters, you'd send certified mail because that's a statute, but sending regular mail because they'd refuse to get their certified letters. So you'd want to, so we always do so much to make sure, because we don't want to take their property and we don't want to resell it. So when you guys talk about that, if you could take some of that into consideration, how hard we work to not take their property, it would be really helpful. Because now the question is, so if somebody comes back and 20 years ago, we forfeited their property, are they going to ask for that money back? Or if we took some of that land and we traded it for some land with the state of Minnesota, which we've done in the past too, because it will work better with theirs and we don't need this piece here. How's that gonna, I mean, all of these things are gonna have to work into how it's gonna be handled through our state. So if you could keep that, hit your resources, because they can help you walk through that and know what we've done and how it will hurt or benefit. There's a lot to it.
I know there was a piece of legislation that actually the individual asked from the Senate if I wanted to actually co-op with him. When the money go back to the people that lost the property. I felt that this is just opening up a whole other can of worms. So I opted out to do that, and another legislator did choose to go on that, but I didn't even go on as a participant on that because I could see the can of worms that's going to open up. I think we need to sit down and have a solution before we start making laws and.
So you think of our little cities and townships and our schools, and if they have to kick back money for, it's gonna hurt hard.
And where's that money gonna come from?
Right,
And we were just following state statute.
right.
Right. And of course, the state's the one that they'll put it back on the burden of the counties and townships, and that's unfair. So I think it's something we need to have further dialogue on. So I'm more than happy to work with you on that.
Yeah.
Let's see if we can unravel this a little bit more.
And we manage it for the state. It's not ours, it's the state. So yeah.
Definitely should not fall back on the local municipalities.
Thank you. Thanks for being here today.
That's of course recorded too. So.
Thanks, Kel.
Look forward to working.
And here is our thing here, the jail state capital investment bonding request. So Rod.
I'm Rod Williamson, Jail Administrator, Pine County, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Before you is a request for resolution. I believe Dave, Administrator Dave Minkey put that together, right? So. Yeah, I had to read it. Well, you were called senator earlier, so. I thought maybe we should know something, but anyways, I know we've come to you before and talked about the jail project and what we look at doing down there with a lot of the changes in like legislation and with some statute changes and things like that too. So I'm not going to go through a lot of that. You're probably already privy to that, but just a little bit of a recap for everyone is the project that we're looking at is not only aimed at enhancing the safety and security of our facility, but it also addresses the evolving needs and the challenges faced by correctional facilities, not only in our county, but throughout the state. The primary public purpose of this project is to ensure the well-being and the protection of our community by providing a secure and a functional environment for those that are incarcerated, along with rehabilitation of the individuals in our custody. Things that we're looking at doing, it's really enhancing the inmate safety in our facility, improving staff and volunteer safety within our facility, drug and contraband prevention. It's getting to be a big issue down in the jails and throughout the state in different facilities. And then just efficient facility utilization. It's taking our footprint in our jail that we have now and not expanding it. We're not adding things on. We want to just take and put new divisions within that so that we can meet not only the statute, but also chapter 2911 requirements of inmate separation within our facility. By addressing these critical needs and the challenges, Pine County Jail Remodel Project aligns with the public purpose of promoting community safety, rehabilitation, and the effective operation of the criminal justice system. Do we have any other questions before we go for this resolution? Oh, by the way, the resolution that we're requesting is part of the bonding request that we'll be presenting forward in legislation. And a piece of that is to have your support in a resolution that says, hey, we support this project. So that's why the resolution is there.
Yep.
Any questions?
No, but I have to say, I'm sorry, because the email I sent you asked for the full 5. I guess we don't need it now.
It's the only questions I have. I don't know if we go to you or the rest of the board here or whomever. This is just for applying for an application to get the money from the state, correct?
Correct.
And then, so then this has nothing to do with any county money yet until we see what the state can pony up for money, right?
Correct. At this point, just so you know, though, we do have a little money that we put off. I'll have to go to Kelly because I know you gave me the updated money, but we had a little money put aside from, was it ARPA funding?
ARPA, yeah, there was.
So there was a little bit of that would offset that 3.5 million.
Yeah.
But just so we know, also, there's an inflation rate that's put into the application piece, and we all know the inflation rate, and I believe it's like 7% right now. So every year it's going to go up. Things aren't going down.
Oh, right, yeah, goes up for everybody.
Yep, exactly.
Everybody. And then, does anybody know what other counties that have went through this process? Does anybody know like the success rate? What percent of the monies that other counties get?
I don't.
Same or similar situation?
Yeah, I don't have percentages in that. I do know Carlton County just received $10 million, I believe it was. Am I right? $10 million for their jail project also.
$100 million jail?
Representative
I would be shocked to say that it doesn't hit that number, but
Yeah.
what I do ask as a request from you guys, is don't spend the money until you've got the money.
Right.
Would be my request.
Yep.
It's, make sure
Mine
that,
too.
that we actually know the money's actually in your hand before you start something.
We've got it pretty good.
Thank
I
you.
recognize it.
Thank you.
Just JJ,
Yeah.
just, Chisago County, they got a bonding request for their jail. Their jail's probably about 4 years old now, but they got a sizable amount. But they did just what the representative said. Carlton kind of got sideways on that, and so they got the building project way down the road before they applied for a bonding bill, and it doesn't, I think they're pretty specific about supplanting dollars.
Typically, Steve, I think that is favorable of looking at the jail facilities for bonding, so I think it needs to be presented in a manner that is workable. I think that looking at with the sheriff's department, I think I'd be happy to help walk it through with you guys and whoever else you have working on that as well. I think that we can. But again, I'm just gonna stress, don't spend the money till you got it.
Mr. Chair,
Yeah.
I would just directly respond to Representative Dots's request. We don't spend money we don't have. We do know that we have some interim changes that Rod and Pete have been looking at, that we're gonna have to do some stuff, right? Just because the jail has to function between now and whenever. But Commissioner Waldham, to your question on the success rate, in bonding, success is a matter of duration, tenacity, and political climate. Right? That if few projects are funded first go round, more projects are funded second go round. And if your legislators are willing to keep you in the game long enough, your likelihood of getting funding is increased.
I'll just add a comment on it, Mr. Mackey, is a lot of them I've seen it takes 8 rounds before there's monies that are administered. So I think just be persistent, be patient. And I think if you get representatives, they're gonna stick with you, work with you. Persistence is gonna pay off. Absolutely.
Okay.
I will
any
move that
other-
resolution, Mr. Chair.
Okay,
2023-31.
I'll second that one.
any other questions, discussion? If not, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. We'll move on to commissioner updates, Arrowhead counties,
I didn't make the meeting. Sorry.
okay? Mille Lacs Corporate Venture Tribal Economic Summit. Terry and I went,
I wasn't there. You went. Leslie,
oh, I went, I went. Dave, you were gonna go.
I had Snake River.
I was there. I think it was a great day to be with a lot of colleagues, and our partnership with the band, I think is a good thing. We heard from some excellent speakers, and the thing that I took home with me was we can all be our best what am I word I'm searching for? Our best salesman. If we as elected officials go around with our head drooping and saying, this is a rotten place to live, guess what? It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. If we go around and there's a lot of cheerleaders in this room and say, we really live in a beautiful place. We live in a wonderful place. We've got really good things going on here. Really good things happen to really good people. And so one of the speakers was a lady that owned a little shop in downtown Brainerd. And they had some pictures of downtown Brainerd. And it when the bypass happened in Brainerd, downtown Brainerd was kind of dying anyway, and it died. Not a slow death, a quick death. And some people said, this isn't gonna happen in our town, and started a little shop. And then somebody opened a shop next to their shop, and somebody opened a shop next to their shop, and pretty soon they've got a vibrant little downtown with a bakery and a coffee shop and a clothing store and all the stuff that you think of in a nice small town. And I think attitude is really that's what I came away with. If you think you're right and you think you're living in a great place, guess what? You probably are. Got anything else, David, on that?
No.
Okay, Snake River Watershed Management Board and the Policy Committee, one watershed, one plan.
I wish I had been at the summit. So Snake River Watershed is kind of still where it was. They're trying to figure out what to do with the membership board. And we have requested that we shift the management board into the joint powers board for the one watershed, one plan. However, there's the idea that if we don't have a membership board like we have right now, that's just the county commissioners, that somebody else is going to come in and they're going to say, we want to create this group of people so that we can levy tax dollars on these people on the Snake River watershed. And so with that fear that somebody else will come forth and make that board, they're not sure if they want to not have that membership board. So Dave was there and he did some really good presentations about if we just join them. But they called a special meeting for next Tuesday with Joe Kolb, right? John Kolb. To go over it again. And unfortunately, Aiken can't be there and I can't be there, so they did cancel it this morning. But something's gonna be coming up where they just want to hear from an attorney that somebody else can't go in and levy money on the people. I think that that's the biggest hang up.
The creation of a watershed district
Yeah.
is a high concern of some of the, well, I think to some varying degree, Mille Lacs, Kennebec and Aiken County.
Yeah.
And back in, the 1990s, there was a petition filed to create a watershed district. That's when the Snake River Watershed Management Board was formed. And then those petitioners who are just residents in the watershed, those petitioners withdrew their petition to create a watershed district. And watershed districts have levy authority. And so that's the concern that as I understand it, from Mille Lacs, Kennebec, and Aiken County, is that they think maintaining the Snake River Watershed Management Board somehow provides some insulation or protection against a watershed district. I don't know that there's a legal opinion that says that. I think that's just a belief that some people have. And so I think that makes this whole watershed more confusing than any of the other watersheds. And
Is that decided at the local level if they just want to form a district, or how does that?
If they want to form a watershed district, the way I understand it, they have to petition. It's kind of like a ditch, all the people affected in that watershed. And then they have to have a public hearing, they have to have,
Who holds the hearing?
I would imagine the county would host the hearing, but the county wouldn't run the watershed district. The watershed district, once it was organized, would run itself.
Mr. Chair, so there would be an administrative hearing process, and I've not read the statute, right, to lay out chapter verse, but there'd be an administrative hearing process. There'd be a hearing officer, testimony would be submitted by interested parties. There'd be a public component to it. And then I think the hearing officer would make a determination. I'm looking to the attorney. So we've not gone through this, right? But some of the folks involved in the Snake River Watershed Management Board were around back in the 90s when that process started, and then the petitioners withdrew their petition.
So it would happen just in the jurisdiction of whatever the water district would be.
Right.
If that's what I want to get at.
Right.
So the people would control it that live.
Right. The people that lived in the watershed district, they had a public hearing. They had to hold it in the gymnasium of Pine City High School. I mean, it was packed. I went to it.
Just a quick couple comments. I do believe if they wanted to create a watershed district now, they could. Even with the Snake River Watershed Management Board.
Yeah.
They think
So-
that you would not be able to if there's already a management board, that it would be looked at differently. and
Yeah.
that The courts would say no.
But there's only one and only ever been one management board in the whole state. It's completely unique. So, I talked to a bunch of the commissioners and some of them are just, what's weird about it is the new law states that, one watershed, one plan has equal representation between the counties and the soil and water boards. And they're afraid that they're losing power. And I talked to them about, you're losing what power? The goal is to have clean water and manage the watershed. Soil and water is obviously a great partner to that. Why wouldn't you want them sitting on the board? But there are some huge fears that something potentially could happen and I get it, but I think the way it's laid out is it stops that. I mean, it specifically says you can't levy and it's all done through grants, so I don't know. It's just really sad to me to see that this board should have been functioning probably years ago. And it's not doing nothing right now. It is just, they're not operating. So, but one watershed, one plan can still move forward without these counties' participation, and it will.
Right.
But
Yep, I just pulled up, okay, so the email that came through yesterday, and it went to all the attorneys, and then, there's 44 people on here, so all of the board members. But the latest draft of the Snake River watershed, or the Snake Watershed GPA, they met on June 1st to review the latest recommendations for audits, and then, or for edits, I'm sorry. And then they, are sending it to the attorneys, and that is where it's gonna be the 4 county commissioners and 4 soil and waters, but then, after this, the document will be sent out to the Snake River watershed, seeking parties to join the watershed by signing the GPA. So then that's where we'll find out if all counties will join it or not. I believe all 4 soil and waters will join it. So that is moving forward, and that's gonna be, they want to have any edits to the agreement by June 21st.
and I know of a county that I'm sure won't. They didn't sign, or they didn't join one that they're currently involved with. And I asked him what the benefit of that was, and he couldn't tell me. I mean, he goes, I'm like, if something happens in that watershed in your county, you have no idea, no say, no nothing. And he goes, they specifically wouldn't tell us if something's going on because we're not part of it. And I'm like, well, how are you benefiting the county at all with that then? So I don't, but they didn't want to give up the power in their words. So they're not even at the table. So-
And Mr. Chair, that's Mille Lacs County and the Rum River watershed. And
Right.
so that seems like a possible outcome in the Snake River, one watershed, one plan group, that it may not be 8 members, right? It may be some subset of those 8 SWCDs and counties, but there's a model. There's other watersheds in the state where the counties have not elected to join the joint powers for the one watershed, one plan, and those
Right.
are proceeding.
So then the issue will be if they don't want to join, if we have 2 of them that don't want to join, is will they be willing to let go of the membership board? So we'll have to see where that goes. But as of right now, they're going to be seeking a meeting with John to find out his legal advice on how to go about this. But he did state at that last meeting that we went to, that to have a membership board and a Snake River watershed board, you're duplicating everything. It doesn't make sense to have both boards and paying for both boards when it's just a duplication. So we will see where that goes, but that was Snake River watershed.
All right. Stay tuned. Health and Human Services was postponed till next week. NLX,
NLX, they are fully funded. They got fully funded by the state through the Senate and the House. And then they said that they also got a big chunk from the federal government. So they are fully funded. They said that now the hard work is going to begin. The thing that they did talk about that I was very pleased to hear is that if there are subsidies that need to be made because they're not getting the ridership or for whatever, it will not come out of the districts where they drive through, but it'll come from the state. So they can't look at the county and say, we're not getting the ridership, you owe us this much money. That's not going to come down the pike, which was good news for me to hear. So we will see where it goes from here. They are going to be talking, they did talk about the need to have all of the townships and cities where the train is going to be running through to be on board and to hopefully join their committee. So that might be coming down too, if you hear from some of your townships or cities that you represent, where the train's going to be going through there, where they're trying to get them to sign up. That's something that they said that they feel. I don't know if they feel that if they have more membership, that they'll have more power. I don't know why they'd go after the townships, but that's.
Yeah, curious as to if they're not gonna stop and service the community like they did, 100 years ago. What, like we joined a Highway 23 coalition, all the work's going on way out west.
They've been working way out west, way longer than we've
Yeah,
only
they're-
been on the board for a year and a half.
They wanted us to be on that and we
Yeah.
gave money to that. They're currently fixing 4-lane roads on 23 when we still have parts that don't even.
right,
adequate
but
shoulders yet.
JJ, they started 25 years ago. We joined a year ago.
Tied to the train, I guess I don't understand if they're not gonna be making any stops, what the.
Hinckley
importance
was
is.
I think
Hinckley would be one, 'cause that's the only one.
I think they should be involved because of the crossings
Right.
and,
Our roads.
and how, I mean, if you don't show up to a meeting and they close that road,
Yeah.
then, whose fault is it?
But I guess my question is if they want them for membership, are they gonna want them to be paying members?
Mhm.
Because that's kind of.
I
an
don't
expensive
think-
thing For them.
I think they're,
I think they're trying to. garner-
I think they're looking for the kind of thing that they've been hearing forever is, are they gonna close my road?
Right.
And if people aren't at a meeting and nobody says, why are you closing my road? Then,
Like the train would actually stop and block the road is what you're.
No,
no,
they're gonna.
they
get rid of the
would
crossing.
they would
More
actually,
Efficient, high
Oh.
speed. That's what they wanted to do, that we were, that's what we were
Yeah,
fighting it.
That won't work.
yeah,
So do you know, are they still staying with the weekend model or are they going 7 days a week?
I don't know if anybody.
But they went, the only way they made the numbers work before, and they crunched those numbers for a couple years and they wouldn't work.
I think it's way too early, Matt. to-
I know, but they could make weekend numbers work.
I've never heard them talk anything about weekdays versus weekends.
Okay,
know,
I think it was a
it's-
Friday, Saturday, Sunday or something.
Yeah, I've never heard them.
In the ridership, there's counties already that cut their funding. Ridership, was it Anoka County that cut funding to the other light rail?
Could be. I know that they're not as full as they had anticipated that they would be.
Right.
So, yeah.
So as far as fully funded, they're fully funded to move forward or they're fully funded for the project?
It
I
sounds
think
like for the project.
Oh, okay.
Because they got
They got federal and state.
850 million from the feds and
Huh.
170 million, 80 million from the
I
state.
did email Congressman. Yeah, I did email Congressman Stauber because he had stated that they were not gonna get federal funds and just said, what happened? So, we'll see. I haven't heard back from him yet, but
Yeah, I think gas tax, and then the gas tax now is linked to inflation even.
Managing difficult conversation workshop.
it was good. I think that it was a lot of what we already do. Or,
You skip it.
Oh,
oh, the ICWA thing is, that's gonna be like a major ongoing process. Like this Thursday, I've got 2 meetings for ICWA, one in the morning and one late in the afternoon. And so, just what it is coming up with the new policies for how ICWA can be handled. So like the policy committee that I sat in on last time, they were talking about how important it is that whatever we do for planning, we can't have the counties pay more money or the tribes pay more money because they don't have more money. So if we make a policy, how is it going to be handled financially has to be a big thought process because we don't want it to come out of county or tribal funds. So that's that. I'm on 3 committees and I've sat in on that one. And then there's the major one that they're going to get together once a month to see where everybody's at. But it's interesting because you're sitting with all these attorneys and people that have dealt with ICWA for years. And it's like, I'm here to learn from you, but to be able to speak up and say, we need to make sure that we're doing what's going to work for the kids. So the counties have all of these things that they have to do. And they do it and they follow the process, but then you need the tribal government to come in and do their procedures. And so to have a witness, what is it called? A qualified witness. It needs to be somebody from the tribal. Well, they're hard to find. They don't have them. And so if you don't get one, then that creates a whole nother issue. Or I talked to, right, foster families. They don't have the foster families, but they don't want them to go into white foster families. Or non-native, I should say. But I was talking to somebody who works a lot with Mille Lacs Band, and she had stated, we don't have the foster families. So if we could help train other foster families to know what our culture is, so that they can support our culture, then we could open up more homes. So, looking at all the big picture, it's going to be an interesting process. I'm glad to be a part of it.
Sounds like it's a ways out yet.
Well, they're hoping to have it done by September so they can give it to legislature, because this is,
Are they gonna be initiative done by then?
the issue is that they're looking at not having, okay, they don't want to have ICWA. That's a federal thing right now, right? That they're talking about stopping ICWA.
This, Mr. Chair.
Mm-hmm.
Commissioner Lovegren. So this is, if we go back to the Tyler Supreme Court decision we had a few minutes ago
Yes.
about how the court ruled the forfeiture process. So right now, there is a case on ICWA that will be decided by the Supreme Court. And so the state of Minnesota law, some of the processes that the legislature desires in case the Supreme Court overturns all or parts of the Indian Child Welfare Act. And so that's
Good idea.
what's driving the timeline.
So, yeah, they really want to make sure that the kids are safe and
Yeah.
that the families get healthy. And so it's really the energy that's behind it is good. Yeah.
That's been on the radar since I've been a commissioner.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
The ICWA, yeah.
10 years.
But it's kind of neat to be able to take ICWA and then rewrite it. You know, they're talking to North Dakota, they're talking to, you know, they're going to start doing some surveys for the tribal members on how do you do this and how do you do that, so we can get a broader sense of what we need to do. So it's really interesting. It is
Thank you.
overwhelming too.
Yes.
No.
Now we'll do the workshop.
So yeah, Steve and I did go down to the Managing Difficult Conversations workshop, and I don't think that they really covered what we thought that they were going to be covering, but it was a good, it's Guardian Angels. Is that the right name? Guardian Angels that puts it on, and they do it for free. It's all volunteers that go around and they do these things to help people so that they can handle different situations. The gentleman that spoke there has spoken at other conferences that I've been at too, and he's very good. But they've got some other ones that are coming up on, like the lady that I sat next to she's a supervisor for human services in a different county. And she had said, I'm here because I want to figure out how to handle the difficult conversations with my employees, you know, and so and they said, okay, we're going to have some of that coming later. You know, they're working on that presentation now. So, yeah. Anything else you wanted to add?
No, my takeaway was, you know, and I think we do okay here when people come to a board meeting, to treat them with respect and to treat them with kindness, and we don't, if they come to speak at open forum, we don't act on stuff that's our policy. But we do respect what they have to say
And we listen.
and listen, and not just pretend like we're listening. I think we truly listen. So anyway, housing HRA EDA meeting.
Yeah, I made it. They were talking about, there's an issue at what was that, Dave, in the sandstone
There's a concern at the
of the
Sandstone Manor
sandstone.
about some
a wing not-
repair and maintenance items.
Oh,
And there was a
maintenance
citizen
items
who-
and then a wing not accessible. I guess my only concern would be safety if anyone had to exit or enter the building. If there's an accessibility issue, hopefully they can take care of that. And then the other maintenance issue was a seal coating, which should be warranted. Talked a little bit about available tax forfeited land. Be interesting to see how that plays out, of course, with the Supreme Court ruling. One of which was a Finlayson Old Creamery building. The HRA EDA spoke a little bit about the government taking control of that property and what would be the right phrase, renovating it or
Yeah, it's, Mr. Chair, Commissioner Waldheim.
Yeah.
So the property is a tax forfeit, or no, I'm looking at, this is the tax forfeit. This is not the foreclosure. Okay, so it's tax forfeit. It's a dilapidated property. It's one of those properties that is probably worth less than it would sell for because of the existing structure would be required to be demolished before you could do anything. And so it's a potential opportunity to partner with the city of Finlayson to redevelop a property in that city. And so the HRA EDA requested that we contact the city of Finlayson If they want to proceed, they will submit a request to the county board to withdraw that property from the tax sale this fall. And then that would give us time for the HRA EDA to work with the city on developing a plan to redevelop the property.
Mr. Chair.
Yeah.
So I'm familiar with that property. There's no parking. It's the feed stores, right? It sits like, so it'd be difficult unless they close one of the accesses to the feed store. That's the one I'm thinking of. There's
the
no
big-
place to even put a park.
The big brick building right there on Main.
Pretty tight.
Right.
Maybe the feed store will buy it.
They're using it for parking.
Yeah. Oh, there was set aside parking for the,
Well, they're using it.
yeah,
You drive by and there's.
yeah, oh, yeah, yeah.
But I guess maybe the gist of this update is the HRA was given EDA powers right through that process.
Yeah.
And so now they are starting to look at opportunities to do that
Good idea. yeah.
redevelopment in partnership with the city. And whether it pans out or not, there's a lot of unknowns,
Right.
right? And so.
All right. We'll move on to AMC District One meeting. The only thing I want to say is congratulations to Terry
Yes.
Lundgren is the new district rep from District One for AMC. So congratulations, Terry. Thank you for stepping up to the plate.
So I have a question.
Yep.
So you guys in tech, we're doing okay with all our GIS stuff and the phone stuff and all that here, aren't we? Or how are we sitting? How is it going? Where are we?
We're the same boat as everybody.
Oh,
else.
okay.
Our system is, 25 years old.
Yeah.
It's outdated. It's outdated. Needs to be replaced.
So are we tax compliant yet for 911?
No.
Okay. We're still going.
You
through state patrol?
can, here's if Ryan has a better explanation, I'll take it, but the way I understand it, you can text to 911,
Goes to state patrol.
but it goes through a technology that transposes it into something that our dispatch console can understand. So it's not a direct, there's a lot of voodoo magic that has to happen for your text to 911 to show up downstairs in our facility. And everybody wants to fix that. But the only fix we have now is what they're doing. It's a program that somebody wrote that it goes through I think it's the State Patrol Dispatch Center
I think it does, yeah.
in Duluth, and then it comes back to Pine County. And it somewhat works, but it's we're all, everything we have is gonna be end of life real soon.
So, Mr. Chair,
About a
just
year and a half.
to maybe wrap Kelly and Ryan in a little bit more. So there was a presentation on next generation 911 and the importance of being sure that GIS and IT were at the table for the planning of those systems, and they were going to be complex and expensive.
And I think we told Ryan that at the tech committee that that's what we'd learned at our Scotty Grace and I have been the rep to the emergency Northeast Minnesota, and the other thing that's happening at the same time is our armor radio system needs to be updated.
Yeah,
And so
that's expensive.
they're all expensive.
Thank you for the answer, Mr. Chair.
How about the regional juvenile advisory committee?
I have the update. I did not go because I was at a fishing tournament, but Terry
sent me the update, so I'll give you, highlights are the East Central Juvenile Center will be mandated to conduct a risk assessment, which has been on the table for a while, but before a risk assessment inventory determine whether or not the kid can go into custody. That has to be implemented by 8/15/2023, and they're still reviewing how they're gonna do that, but there will be an override capacities built in, such as no alternative place to put the kid or an officer override. So they might say they just have to take them. Pine County Probation and the Pine County Attorney's Office does the same kind of assessment usually at the first appearance in court, one or the other. So that's new stuff coming out of the laws and putting people in. With our final budget at the end, we had 77,000, let's call it $78,000 that is going to reserves. So we sit at 1.9 million, which is 525,000 is going to the camera control project, and another 137,000 is going to be spent on new piping for the campus. And I think I updated you on the rest. We have, it's a weighted voting down there when we vote on something, and we carry 2 votes because we buy 1 bed. So that's what we said. And they're doing mental health stuff there 5 times a week now. So that's a really good program. And other than that, a bunch of people joined, so the group is getting much bigger. We might not be able, we're not meeting on site right now because there's no room for everybody because you're inside the facility. So they're trying to work out what we're gonna do there. That's pretty much it.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Any other?
You ready?
Yep.
Okay. P&T Policy Committee, one of the big things that they're talking about is the car dealerships are trying to get away with not having AM radios in the new cars that are coming out. And because AM radios are one of the biggest and the best processes to go through for emergencies, so that they, you know, if anybody has an emergency going on with fires or they talked about a huge area where they were having major fires and the only service that they could get was the AM radios. They couldn't get their cell services. They couldn't get anything else. So they're asking for people to talk to their representatives to not allow them to stop doing AM radios in their cars because it's a necessity to have. So that was a big one that they were talking about for quite a while. If affordable accountability, so that's if we have people, and I need to talk to CenturyLink because that's the majority of our Wi-Fi to see if they offer the service, but for people that are low income or that meet certain requirements, if your children get free school lunches, that type of stuff they use, they can save $35 off of their phone bills per month. And their cell phone bills per month. And so that's a big one or their Wi-Fi, it's their broadband. So that's a big thing that we need to be able to promote. But I don't know if our servers all do that.
Everybody gets free school lunch now though with the last
Now they
legislation,
do,
right?
yeah, so they won't be able to use that anymore. But that was one of the
I don't know
criteria.
how all those programs that are tied to free and reduced lunch counts are gonna work anymore.
Right. So that was that one. I went to a community leadership breakfast. It was interesting they did a study for Pine County. And one of the things that they talked about was where Pine County is as far as our mental health. And that's our top concern is mental health. And then chemical health, and then obesity and transportation. Those are the top things for Pine County that we need to start worrying, that we have issues with. So I asked them if they're working with our blue zones because that would help with a lot of that. And they had stated that they're waiting to get the results from that. And they said that the results are in, but it's really big. And so I think you guys are still processing the results to see where that's at. But they said that it was through Gateway, and they're very anxious to see what came out of that and how that can happen. The other thing that was really, if you know anybody who's interested in becoming a certified nursing assistant, they're actually giving free certified nursing assistant classes through Gateway or through Essentia. It's not Gateway anymore, is it? But it's through Pine Tech and they'll be doing it up in Sandstone at the hospital. So if you know anybody that wants to take those classes, they're trying to get people educated. And that's one of the ways that they're going about bringing employees in.
Are they going out to the schools?
I'm sure that they're going everywhere. So they really wanna, and I think some of the schools are already doing it themselves too. So, then I went into, there was it's through the TNT committee and it was how local governments can get involved with the national system. And so they talked a lot about the BEAD and the digital equity programs and how to get involved with those. And the big thing that they said is it's a how do they put it? They said it's a sprint, it's not a marathon, or it's a marathon, it's not a sprint. So we need to be patient. But they sent out new mapping and I was talking to Leslie about it the other day and she said, she had done the survey that they sent out seeing where people's broadband was. And she said, it shows that I don't have service, but she said, my neighbors must not have done it because it shows that they have really excellent service. And so the mapping system is still wrong and we still need to make sure that we do our concerns to the FDA just to make sure that they know that we are not well served. So that is a big one. The BEAD program has $42.45 billion in it. Digital equity has $2.75 billion in it. We need to start working with our state because that's where the money got sent and that's where that'll go through. All I got.
I have one more, Mr. Chair.
Yep.
I just want to give a shout out to our planning and zoning board. They had their meeting last week and there were 3 VRBOs that they all got their interim use permits and they did a good job. They worked it through limit hours and all that stuff. They do a lot of good work for around the country.
They're a good team.
Yes, they are. That's a good group. And the other thing is that, remember that house on the Snake River that was washing out? And
Yep.
So, the new owners came in and they wanted a variance to put it back, build back right on the thing, that sand bank is still going, you know? And I can't, I'm a non-voter. But, so they denied the variance. So then I said, I was talking to Caleb and I says, I remember when that went through here and we had the pictures of the geographics of the subsoil. Remember the clay went up at an angle way back and the water was running and it's never gonna stop it.
Right.
And he goes, there's a map. I said, talk to Greg. He probably has that map still.
And the pictures that show that the house was
Oh,
washed.
they showed that. He showed the pictures on
Yeah.
so that they had what was left of it. There's just a chunk of the slab there.
It was big.
But anyway, came back around. They denied the variance. So that's all I had, but that's a difficult job. You know, I mean, they do good work.
Anything else?
No.
I hear no other business, therefore we will be